Imagine a man sitting alone in the flickering light of a candle. His quill moves rapidly across the pages of a leather-bound notebook. But these are not ordinary words. They are written backward, as if meant to be read only in a mirror. Between the strange lines, strange drawings appear. Flying machines, armored vehicles, visions of things no one in his time could ever imagine. This man is Leonardo da Vinci. To many, he was a painter, the genius behind the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper. But hidden in his notebooks lies another Leonardo, an engineer, an anatomist, a visionary, a man who seemed to look centuries ahead. The question is not whether he was an artist or a scientist. The question is, was Leonardo only recording what he saw around him, or was he playing a greater game, like a master of chess, seeing dozens of moves into the future long before the rest of humanity could catch up? Here, inside his lost pages, we might discover secrets that were never meant for his own time, but for ours. Leonardo da Vinci was born in 1452 in the small Tuscan town of Vinci. From the beginning, his life was not ordinary. He was an illegitimate child, raised partly by his father's household and partly left to wander the hills and rivers of the countryside. These landscapes became his first classroom. While other children played, Leonardo studied how water moved over rocks, how birds glided through the air, how light shifted across leaves. He was not simply observing, he was recording, memorizing, and decoding the world. But there was something peculiar about how Leonardo chose to write. His notebooks, now among the most valuable documents in history, were almost all written in mirror script. That is, the letters were reversed so that the text could only be read properly if reflected in a mirror. Why would he do this? Was it merely to protect his ideas from theft? Was it to hide thoughts the church might consider dangerous? Or was it, as some modern scholars believe, simply more comfortable for a left-handed genius? Yet the mirror script gave his writings a mysterious aura, like secret codes only he could understand. Imagine page after page filled with strange sketches, flying machines, anatomical dissections, strange geometric patterns, and all of it wrapped in backwards handwriting, as if written for the eyes of the future, not his own time. In one notebook, Leonardo jotted down lists of questions. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds stay in the air? Why does the heart beat? Questions that most people never thought to ask. He filled thousands of pages with both answers and more questions. It was not only curiosity, it was an obsession with understanding everything. To read Leonardo is to step into a mind that refused to accept limits. But behind this brilliance, there was also secrecy. Leonardo often worked for powerful patrons, dukes, kings, and even the Pope. His notebooks sometimes contained designs for war machines, cannons, giant crossbows, armored vehicles. These inventions were far ahead of his time, but also dangerous. Perhaps he feared that if his designs fell into the wrong hands, they could bring destruction. So he hid them behind mirror writing, in cryptic sketches scattered across dozens of notebooks. Even more fascinating is how incomplete these notebooks are. Of the perhaps 13,000 pages Leonardo wrote, only about 7,000 survive today. The rest? Lost, hidden, or perhaps deliberately destroyed. Some claim the missing pages may hold his most radical ideas, visions of inventions or discoveries humanity was not yet ready for. And so, the mystery deepens. Did Leonardo purposely scatter his secrets so that only fragments of his genius would survive? Leonardo da Vinci, then, was not just a painter of the Mona Lisa or the Last Supper. He was a man encoding knowledge, writing for readers centuries ahead of him, leaving trails of ideas like puzzle pieces scattered through time. And every code, every drawing, every mirror-written page seems to whisper, "There is more here than meets the eye." Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks read like windows into a time machine. While the rest of the Renaissance world marveled at paintings, poetry, and architecture, Leonardo's sketches leapt forward hundreds of years. He seemed to live in a mental future that no one else could reach. One of his most astonishing obsessions was flight. Centuries before the Wright brothers lifted their machine off the ground in 1903, Leonardo filled entire pages with designs for flying machines. Wings like giant bats, ornithopters powered by human pedaling, parachutes shaped like pyramids. His imagination refused to accept gravity as a permanent barrier. In one famous sketch, he drew a contraption with wings that could flap, almost like a mechanical bird. His notes suggested that by studying the movement of bats, he believed humans could copy nature's design. He even wrote, "Once you have tasted flight, you will forever walk the earth with your eyes turned skyward, for there you have been, and there you long to return." Whether or not he truly believed man would fly in his lifetime, the dream of conquering the skies consumed him. But flight was not the only future he glimpsed. Leonardo sketched the design of a tank, an armored vehicle with cannons mounted in all directions. He imagined machine guns, helicopters, submarines, and bridges that could be built quickly for armies on the move. The irony is that while he drew these terrifying engines of war, he personally hated violence. Some scholars argue he may have even built intentional flaws into his war designs, so that if a ruler tried to construct them, they would fail. Was this Leonardo's subtle way of protecting humanity from its own hunger for destruction? Even more remarkable was his approach to the human body. Leonardo's anatomical drawings are among the most precise in history, rivaling modern textbooks. He secretly dissected cadavers, peeling back layers of muscle, veins, and organs, in pursuit of understanding the machine of life itself. His sketches of the heart showed details no one else discovered for centuries, like how the aortic valve worked. He was not content with surface appearances. He wanted to unlock the mechanics of life itself. And then there are the stranger visions. Pages filled with bizarre automatons, mechanical knights that could stand, move their arms, even sit down. Essentially, robots. In the 15th century, imagine a world where a Renaissance genius was already dreaming of artificial life, long before electricity, computers, or AI were even imaginable. When you read Leonardo's notebooks, you feel two things at once: awe and unease. Awe because his ideas foreshadowed so much of modern technology, unease because it feels as though he truly glimpsed the centuries ahead. How could one man in the 1400s sketch machines of the 1900s? Was it genius? Was it luck? Or was Leonardo's mind simply operating on a frequency the rest of humanity could not yet hear? Leonardo once wrote, "The painter will produce pictures of little merit if he takes the works of others as his standard." He refused to copy. He refused to limit himself to what the world already knew. Instead, he pushed into the unknown, into a future he could never live to see, but one that he mapped out for us nonetheless. When we turn the pages of Leonardo's notebooks, something unsettling happens. Not all of his writings are about inventions, anatomy, or art. Some of them read like cryptic riddles, short fragmented notes written in mirror script, as if they were meant to be seen only by someone who knew how to unlock them. Leonardo often wrote from right to left, a technique known as mirror writing. To the casual eye, the text appears reversed, as though it were a puzzle. Why did he do this? Some believe he was hiding his ideas from the church, which often persecuted those who challenged accepted doctrine. Others argue it was simply a way to protect his work from being stolen, a form of intellectual armor. And there is another, stranger possibility. Leonardo liked secrets. He wanted his notebooks to feel like locked boxes, filled with mysteries that only the most determined minds could open. Among his strangest writings are what scholars call his prophecies. At first glance, they seem like playful riddles, almost like parables. For example, he wrote of creatures that will one day speak without tongues and carry voices across great distances. Some interpret this as a vision of telecommunication, radios, telephones, or even the internet. Another prophecy describes iron ships that move without sails against the strongest winds. Submarines, steamships. He wrote of armies in the air, raining fire upon cities below. To us, it sounds like airplanes and aerial bombing. But the most unsettling prophecies are darker, almost apocalyptic. Leonardo wrote about floods swallowing towns, plagues returning in waves, and firestorms consuming great cities. Was he simply imagining worst-case scenarios? Or did his mind, with its uncanny foresight, truly glimpse the disasters of the centuries to come? Hidden codes also appear in his drawings. A careful look at some of his anatomical sketches reveals geometric patterns and ratios that align with secret traditions like sacred geometry and the teachings of Pythagoras. His famous Vitruvian Man is not only a study of human proportion, but also a symbol of the union between the human body and the cosmos. A coded statement that man himself is the blueprint of the universe. Then there are the riddles he left unsolved. Phrases like, "He who wishes to be rich in a day will be hanged in a year," or "The greatest deception men suffer is from their own opinions." These feel less like scientific notes and more like cryptic warnings, timeless truths encrypted in the voice of a man who seemed to see beyond his century. The church watched him closely. Some of his patrons loved his brilliance, but others whispered that Leonardo meddled with dangerous knowledge. To dissect human bodies, to write in codes, to draw machines of war. Was he a man serving progress, or one tempting fate? Perhaps that is why so many of his notebooks disappeared after his death. Of the thousands of pages he wrote, only a fraction survive today. What was lost? And more chilling, what truths did he deliberately conceal, waiting for a future time when humanity might be ready? When Leonardo da Vinci died in 1519, he left behind more than unfinished paintings. He left behind a labyrinth of thoughts, thousands of pages filled with sketches, diagrams, riddles, and visions. But here lies the mystery. We only possess a fragment of what he wrote. Scholars estimate that Leonardo may have produced as many as 13,000 pages of notes during his lifetime. Today, fewer than 7,000 remain. Nearly half of his writings, an entire universe of ideas, vanished into the shadows of history. Where did they go? Some of his notebooks were passed down to his pupil and assistant, Francesco Melzi, who tried to preserve his master's legacy. Yet after Melzi's death, the collection was scattered. Pages were sold, stolen, or forgotten in dusty libraries. Some ended up in private collections, hidden away for centuries. Others may have been deliberately destroyed, perhaps because their contents were deemed too dangerous, too heretical, or too advanced for their time. The surviving notebooks we do have, such as the Codex Atlanticus, the Codex Leicester, and the Codex Arundel, are astonishing treasures. They reveal his insatiable curiosity. Studies of birds in flight, designs for flying machines, notes on geology, maps of rivers, and even sketches that resemble modern tanks, helicopters, and diving suits. Each page feels like peering into the mind of someone centuries ahead of us. The most famous of these, the Codex Leicester, was once owned by Thomas Coke, Earl of Leicester, and later purchased by one of the richest men of our time, Bill Gates. For years, Gates made high-resolution digital scans of the Codex available, allowing the world to finally see Leonardo's brilliance up close. Yet even these surviving volumes are only fragments, pieces of a greater puzzle we may never complete. The idea of what was lost haunts historians. Did Leonardo write about inventions we haven't yet imagined? Did he leave behind codes we still haven't cracked? Some scholars suggest that within his missing pages could have been early concepts of electricity, medicine, or technologies beyond our comprehension. Others whisper that he may have hidden his most dangerous ideas deliberately, aware that mankind wasn't ready. But beyond the notebooks themselves, Leonardo's legacy lives everywhere. His way of seeing the world, questioning, experimenting, combining art with science became the foundation of modern thought. He refused to separate beauty from knowledge, creativity from logic. In his eyes, the flight of a bird was as important as the fall of water, the anatomy of a muscle as wondrous as the mechanics of a machine. And yet, there is a haunting truth. For every notebook we hold today, there may be another forever lost, tucked away in the back of a monastery, buried in a private collection, or perhaps gone to ashes long ago. They remind us that history is fragile. The greatest genius of his time may still be speaking to us, but only in fragments. Like hearing an unfinished symphony, where half the notes are missing. And so, as we close the pages of Leonardo da Vinci's lost notebooks, we are left with a haunting question. What if? What if the missing manuscripts still exist, waiting to be uncovered? What if among the ashes of forgotten history lies an invention, a vision, or a truth that could change our world forever? Leonardo was not just an artist, nor only an engineer. He was a mind that refused boundaries, a man who stood centuries ahead of his time, seeing connections where others saw chaos. His legacy reminds us that curiosity is not a weakness, it is the spark that drives humanity forward. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not what Leonardo left behind, but how much of his genius we are still yet to discover. And maybe, just maybe, some of his secrets remain hidden, waiting for the right eyes to find them. Because history is never truly finished. Its echoes live on, in ruins, in manuscripts, in stories we almost forgot. And as we continue to turn these dusty pages together, one truth remains. Every story leaves a trace. If you enjoyed this journey through time, we invite you to subscribe to The Lost Journal. Leave a comment with your thoughts and share this story with others who love mysteries of history. Your support helps us keep uncovering the past, page by page, trace by trace. And don't go too far. Our next journey will dive into another hidden chapter of history, one filled with secrets just as extraordinary. Stay with us because the past still has so much to reveal.